welcome. My name is Eileen Chevalier and I created the typewriter alphabet, and these are the flashcards. Today we're going to have a lesson on protection. All living things strive to stay alive. Many animals, including humans, do this by eating plants. But the plants need to stay alive too. So in this lesson, we're going to discuss visible, which is a physical, and invisible, something like chemical, methods of protection in plants. So I'm going to show you the materials you want to have, the flashcards themselves, and we are going to use the number 2 flashcard today. That'll be fun when we figure out the difference between thorns and spines and prickles. And then this is a super fun book called Wicked Plants, subtitled The Weed That Killed Lincoln's Mother and Other Botanical Atrocities. So today's lesson, if you haven't figured it out, might not be for the faint of heart. If you want to scare yourself into never going outside again, then you should probably read this book. There are some pretty, plants are amazing, right? Plants can save our lives. Plants can also kill us. So there's a lot of crazy stuff in here. So be forewarned, if you aren't really okay with getting exposed to that, then go do another lesson. We're also going to use Flora inside the Secret World of Plants and look at some different plants in there that are protecting themselves. Maybe not as wickedly as the other ones. All right, before we look at the books, we are going to do a definition. So pull out your journal and I'll read to you. Protect, to keep safe from harm or injury. So when we use the word protect, we're using it in a specific way. So if a plant is protecting itself, that means it is probably not protecting other plants or animals around itself. So if a porcupine is protecting itself, is it protecting itself just by having really nice relationships with everyone, or is it protecting itself with really dangerous weapons that are all over its body? It's protecting itself with these dangerous weapons. And plants do the same thing. They look so sweet and innocent, but they can't run away, right? At least animals can run away, but the plants can't. And so they have to have something to protect themselves with other than feet, because they don't have that option available to them. All right, so let's ask some questions about these protection methods. First of all, the most obvious way that plants defend themselves is with physical obstacles. That's stuff that we can see. Thorns are often one of the first things that come to mind. So think of a plant that has thorns. What do you think of? If you thought of rose, you are incorrect. So we're going to read the back of the 2 flashcard and look at some pages in Flora and learn the difference between thorns, spines, and prickles and see which one roses actually have. What do you think would be more damaging to the plant, removing thorns or removing prickles? So we'll look at that too. First of all, let's read our card. Many plants have thorns, spines, or prickles to protect themselves. Thorns, single, and spines, grouped, are part of the stem, growing only from nodes. So if you see that little kind of extra bump right there, that's a node. With veins like leaves. So this whole, there are veins running all through here, and then there are veins running through the thorn. Or if it were spines, it'd be running through the spines, and then the veins run through the leaves as well. Prickles don't have veins and can cover the stem. So, really different. Let's look at a picture in Flora that will show that for you a little more clearly. So, here they are. So you can see the top 2, they have nodes, right, where they're coming out. There's the single one, it's a thorn. If there's multiples, it's spines. And then down here we have the prickles, and these should look pretty familiar to you. So not coming out at a node, they're coming out everywhere around. And you can see that they're pretty different. So Do you see how the thorn is kind of the same sort of piece as the branch, as the stem itself? Not so with the prickles. So which one of those is a rose? So when we, at our last house, we had roses, and when I would bring them in, gloves on, but I would just hold the stem and just kind of like pop all the thorns off. Not thorns. Pop all of the prickles off, because they don't actually have the veins running through them, so they're really easy just to pop off. But there are also more of them. So plants also have invisible ways to keep predators at bay. Many plants have at least some poisonous parts and may deter pests with their bitter taste. Read about the habanero chili, the manchineel tree, and others in Wicked Plants. So this book is super fun. I guess not in like a happy way. I mean, some of it's just like crazy to listen to. And surprising, like really surprising things that you wouldn't expect from plants, which is why I like it. And don't read it if you ever want to like go outside and not feel like you're in danger of anything, because you'll be very wary after you read these stories. Every part of the book will have a topic here at the top. So the little section that I'm going to show you is painful. Here comes the sun. Phototoxic plants harness the power of the sun to do their damage, using sap that burns the skin when exposed to light. In some cases, eating the plant or its fruits makes the person more susceptible to sunburn. So there are several in this section. So I will read you about celery. That is the second one on the list. Another member of the carrot family, because the first one was carrot family. This plant is susceptible to a disease called pink rot fungus. Not humans. There's a fungus that is trying to protect himself from. The main defense mechanism is to produce more phototoxic compounds to kill off the fungus. Farm workers and handlers of celery routinely get burns on their skin that show up under sunlight. And people who eat large quantities of celery are at risk as well. Now, if you're just eating like normal amounts of celery, you should be fine. If all you're eating is celery, you should wear a lot of sunblock. One medical journal cited the case of a woman who ate celery root and then went to a tanning booth, ending up with severe sunburn. So just be aware that celery is phototoxic. So that's all that light from the sun, and then toxic is poisonous for you. Another one that's super interesting that we all encounter, or at least we do in our house a lot, is limes. Limes and some other citrus contain phototoxic compounds in the oil glands found in the outer rind of the fruit. So if you use essential oils, any of those citrus, not any of them, but I can't tell you which ones. So citrus ones you should watch out for. One medical journal reported on a group of children at a day camp who broke out in unexpected rashes on their hands and arms. Doctors determined that the only children who were affected were those who had gone to a crafts class. They had been using limes to make pomander balls, and piercing the lime peels with scissors spread enough oil onto their hands and arms to cause a reaction in the sun. Enough that there were doctors called in. So it can be serious. Orange marmalade and other foods containing citrus peel or citrus oil may cause a reaction. Oil of bergamot, a small pear-shaped citrus, in Earl Grey tea has the bergamot in it. So delicious. Is a popular fragrance ingredient. Any citrus-based perfume or lotion could also burn. So there are more. That's just a couple of them in there. And this whole book, it has so many. So that one was under painful. There's also intoxicating, deadly, dangerous. So there's all different kinds of plants in here. So different levels. Dangerous is what we read about, but there are lots of deadly ones too, obviously. The weed that killed Lincoln's mother. All right. last question. Animals aren't the only threat to plants. Some plants, F and S, release substances into the ground to keep other plants from growing. This is really fascinating to me. It's called allelopathy. Why do some plants use this technique? So I was doing a little research on the word allelopathy. So allelon is Greek and it means of each other. And then pathy is harm or suffering. So there you go. And these plants, so they're not doing it to, it's not a mutual thing, which a lot of times allelon, the first part of that word, means. It's like more of like a mutual thing. So I'm not really sure why they used that word, but if a plant is allelopathic, then it can work in several different ways. So the roots of the plant can emit substances that kill the roots of other plants. The leaves can do two things. The leaves can emit gases. You know how the oxygen comes out of leaves. So it's emitting this gas out of its leaves, but it can also emit toxic gases out of the leaves of the plant. So that can harm or kill the plants around it. And then when those leaves die and fall to the ground, as they decompose, they can also release substances that kill the other plants around them. So why would a plant want to do that? Like, what would be the benefit of a plant being allelopathic? Why would it want to kill any other plants that are in like that drip line of the plants if the leaves are falling down? Why would it not want any other plants down there? And then if the roots, wherever the roots are trying to gather nutrients and water and all that, why would it not want other roots down there? So why is this plant allelopathic, and is there anything good that can come of that? We'll see. We'll talk about more in Poisons and Medicine, that line that happens there. So in your journal, there are a couple of activities that you can do. First off, document defense mechanisms into two groups. So invisible and visible. What about stinging leaves? Can we see them or not? Have you ever touched a leaf only to discover it was covered with tiny points? So sometimes there are things that you can see, and then there are things you can't see. Like we all know poison ivy. It doesn't look like it's going to harm us, but it can do a ton of damage. All right, so this is page 156 in Flora. So this is a stinging leaf. And as you can see, it looks really hairy. And then let's see if we can get a little bit better shot of this right here. Chemical cocktail. Stinging nettle trichomes contain an arsenal of irritating chemicals, including formic acid, histamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine. These compounds work together to make the pain and discomfort that they cause last much longer than the chemical could achieve individually. So not only is it putting poison into you, it's putting like a bunch of different things into you to make the pain last longer so that you will really want to stay away. What you should not do with this plant is to try to take off the parts that will hurt you, because what the plant will do is go, something is trying to attack us, let's make more. So it'll just make more of all of those trichomes. And we read about those in a different plant as well, and I can't remember which one it was. But if you hear that word, watch out. Second activity, make up your own plant with defense mechanisms. What is it protecting itself from? So if you were a plant, or you want to just make up one, think about where it would be and what around it would need to protect itself from. How will it still ensure pollination? Because remember, like even if the plant is poisonous, it can't be poisonous to everything. It can't kill everything. So you want it to defend itself against some things, but also have pollinators that will come and make sure that it can still get pollinated. So then just draw a label and name your plant. And you can play around. You can make more than one if you want. And maybe you have two of them that are competing in the same environment. Like how are they protecting themselves from each other? How are they competing for pollinators? You can play with it a little bit. So do those activities and enjoy them, and I will see you for the next lesson. Thanks. Bye.